I sort of describe as, when you're in flow of thought or when you're in flow of sport, you can also be very much in flow of cooking. Being in flow with food, it's the most electric thing for me because you're not thinking at all. You're going through a process, you're holding conversation, the ingredients are familiar, and it's just practice, practice, practice. So the area that we operate in is called the Downtown East Side. It is the largest open-air drug market in North America. It's one of the densest populations of mental illness, but it's also one of my favorite communities in the world because it's honest. I started working in it before I started working with it. Opening restaurants and falling in love with the neighborhood and its character and its age, I was infected with this feeling of we need to do better. Any great idea before it becomes the norm is crazy. And those levels of pain and passion that you go through to get that to be the norm is something that me and my team are completely up for. The token program is a closed currency that allows you to give somebody a sandwich instead of money that you may be worried they'd spend on drugs or alcohol. We thought we'd do 2 or 3 a day. We've done almost 90,000 in 3 years. When you create something beautiful, it has its own life. The token has its own life. And we're now taking it to major city hubs like San Francisco and New York, and then smaller hubs with native populations in Colombia. How can we make systems that are global systems that translate to every city in the world that will actually help economies as well as the people who are in them? That universal energy just flows straight through all of us. Once we can tap into it to co-create with an audience, that's what happens when I come to a stage. And I'm very specific about people understanding the message in a language they understand. And the universal language is love. I'm setting this up. A huge thank you to my dear friend sitting in the front row, Yarrow Craner, for putting that video together and continuing to fight for the underdog every goddamn day. I love you. Number 2, look what I got. Everybody got real jealous real fast. Thank you, Devin. Wow, what an honor to follow what an incredible day of speakers and friends and advocates and the brave to come out and just talk about you and the guts it takes to do that in front of a whole bunch of strangers. So I'm glad you're exhausted because that means I'm going to be great. So this is a question I want you to take. We're going to do a little class today, all right? Everybody else has told the story. I'm going to tell my story, but we're going to do class while we're at it. And the first lesson in class is who inspires you and why. So everybody's got those big people that inspire them, Muhammad Ali, Mother Teresa, all of those things. Yeah, those are universal. We all own those. That's great, amazing people. Who inspires you in your day-to-day life? Could be sitting next to you. They're probably sitting next to you because you took them here and that was nice of you. But I want you to hold on to that. This gentleman inspires me. How many folks in the audience have seen somebody who looks homeless before? Okay, you haven't, ma'am? I'm not sure where you hail from, but oh, you have? Okay, cool, good. I just want to make sure you're listening because I came a long way. All right, so this is my friend Michael Haggerty. For years I saw him on the street. I did not start my life as a social capitalist, social activist, social entrepreneur, all the jargon that we love so much. I started my life as a restaurateur who wanted all the money. And nobody told me that restaurants don't make any, so I screwed up right away. But they're really fun. Girls like them. It lets me cook, and yeah, they were really great. But this guy would be out front of my restaurant all the time cleaning up, and I couldn't figure out why. I never could understand what Mike was doing or who paid him, which is always something that goes through your head when you have a big payroll. I was like, man, the city is so ahead of the times. They're paying people who are marginalized to sweep. No, they weren't. The city's still way behind. But Mike intrigued me to the point where I was like, I need to talk to him. But why wouldn't I talk to Mike? My ego. And I challenge this in all of us. I wouldn't talk to people who are marginalized specifically, not because I was worried that they were dirty or had germs or crazy or any of those sorts of things, because I'm certifiable. So that wasn't going to be an issue. I was scared that Mike was going to ask me for something I couldn't give him. I was terrified that he would say, hey, do you? And I'd be like, oh no, I'm going to have to do this. And whatever it was, I knew I would do it. And that's what all of us feel. We feel this need to help people, but then we don't know, and we're busy. And so we fake phone calls, and we cross the street, and we pretend we don't see people. And it's more devastating to them than the situation they're in. So, critical point, Mike's laying down across the street from my apartment. Literally always looked like this, always well put together, laying lightly covered in snow. That was my turning point. I'm like, okay, I got to go talk to this guy and make sure he's okay. He might be dead. He looks dead. So let's find out. And I walked across, and I kneeled down, and I was like, what do I say? I was like, hey, dude, are you okay? And he looked up at me, it's 8 years ago, and he went, no. I was like, I knew that. I knew. I'm clever. And I said, will you come and have a coffee with me at my restaurant? I don't know, my name is Mark. He's like, I know you, dude, I see you every day. I was like, right, cool. Coffee? He's like, do you have beer? And we became really quick friends. Put a pin in Mike, okay? As an entrepreneur, I've done 11 different businesses, all of which I've loved. And I've loved the people in them. And they've made very little money. Did I say that already? Just in case anybody's looking for a check for a startup, don't look here. Invest your time is so much more valuable than your cash. It's so much more valuable. Your knowledge, the things you've gone through, the lessons that you have, all these things that you carry are so much more valuable than money. Invest it, and money if you got some, in what can be, not what is. Think about the things that you could put into this world. I don't know, maybe a little thing called peace love. It's doing okay. Put your time and your money and your energy in those things. I'm preaching to the converted, but I just like to say it a lot. Now, lesson for me. Doing good brings good to you. I've never spent a marketing dollar, never once. I've never paid for PR. I don't believe in it because I'm cheap. And doing good got to this point where people were writing about us all the time. The token program you saw, we cracked 100,000 redemptions with people handing a token to somebody else and saying, I care about you, but I just have this thing and I don't want to give you money. And then they would come into my diner and hang out. They still do every day. It's happening right now while I'm standing here. And it got attention. It got a lot of attention. And a group came to me and said, we want to make a TV show about you doing this social impact business. I was like, look, I have enough. I'm very successful at making a fool of myself. I don't need everybody to see it. And they said, no, it'll be fine. And I said, yeah, sure it will. I do contracts too. Final cut. You can't write the stories. You just have to follow us with camera crews. And I will do what's known as post interviews or on the flies. But outside of that, everything is real. And so that is essentially death to pitching a television show. Nobody's going to take that deal. They want to make you look like a monster. It's what they do. But one person believed in it. Well, a whole department believed in it. That lady's name was Oprah Winfrey. Much to my surprise, because look at me. But she was very excited about it. We did a reality show called Gastown Gamble. Now, there's a thing about the largest open-air drug market in North America. People aren't excited about cameras. Whether you're smoking crack or selling it, the last thing you want is this scene. So that was interesting. As a community builder, we had to go and talk to every dealer, every runner, every money handler, everybody in the neighborhood and be like, we don't want to film you. And everybody was cool. Eventually. Some money exchanged hands. I hope this isn't being recorded. It got so popular that this guy even showed up. He came across the border with his Trans Am on a trailer and 100 Hawaiian shirts and said, check, your hamburger's delicious. And Americans came flooding in the door. And luckily he left. But the problem with television is, there's a huge problem with television. You know you're going to be on it and you know your mom's going to watch it. Second biggest problem, you know everybody else is going to watch it, so you're really guarded. You got to be careful what you say. You're worried what you're going to look like. And so through television, I ended up forgetting who I actually was. I was so busy getting up every morning playing a character of Mark Brand for the Oprah Winfrey Network that I forgot who I was. And I sat one day with my best friend, Alex Yuso, and I said, hey, how's things going? He's like, good. Do I have to book a meeting to see you these days? I haven't seen you forever. What do you even like anymore? And I was so taken aback. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, what do you like? We used to listen to rap music and play basketball and drink and stuff and have fun. Do you like any of that stuff anymore? And it broke my heart a little bit. I was like, of course I love rap music. How do you not know that? What happened? And what I realized was I had completely turned into that character. This is what my neighborhood looked like on TV. This is what it really looks like. TV, neighborhood. And that's the perfect analogy of what had happened to me. So I got really mad. First I got super depressed, and then I got really, really mad. And we created this, and you saw the video on this, and it was really exciting. And people got super mad too. And so I was opening a pub, and I got a text message from a very dear friend of mine from a television station, and it was all in caps, and it said, are you okay? And I texted him back, and I said, yeah, I'm feeling pretty good today. Thanks for asking. You? And he texted back one word, and it said anarchists on it. And I texted back, have you been drinking? And he said, no, check your email. These guys had stolen my butcher shop sign and wrote me an email saying that they were going to systemically, brick by brick, tear down all of my businesses and threaten me personally and my staff. Now, the staff part was the problem. Me, fine, get threatened all the time, not a big deal. My staff, huge problem. So I flipped out. And luckily, I have an amazing staff who calmed me down. And this was where my career pivoted. Instead of going after them and finding them, we decided to do this. So here we have anarchists, and here we have a sandwich board where you can put your head in, or here, and be the anarchists. And we stuck it in the middle of the downtown east side and said, take a picture of it, we'll buy a meal for the women's shelter. And 4,000 people came by and took pictures and tweeted it and got excited on the internet, and my team was right, because they're always right, and I'm generally wrong. So listen to your teams. Social impact business got me very excited. I closed fine dining restaurant, I sold other businesses that couldn't do impact, and I built this, an 11-acre farm on the Sunshine Coast an hour from downtown that employs people with developmental disabilities to do farming and brewing and all sorts of other amazing stuff. And we harvest hops together, and we have a great time, because a regular community looks like the sum of its parts. That's what it looks like. It looks like all of us. This isn't abnormal. But we seclude ourselves and we isolate ourselves into places where we want to be, what we aspire to because of television. I create places of inclusion because it's so important for us to be around people who have challenges so they can show us it's not so bad, because it isn't. So I knew that I could do this, but how could we do this? How could we do more and more and more of it, because there's so many of us? And unbelievably, the kid from Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, who has a high school education, Stanford called. And it's not like the phone book where they just got the line wrong. It's a different Mark Brand. They actually called me and said, hey, I would love you to come and do this thing. So I was an innovation fellow at the Stanford D School working on upward mobility for marginalized populations. There's all your jargon. Put it all in one sentence. I'm amazing. Trying to help us connect to us. And that's what I've spent my last 8 months on. The thing about it is good businessmen will look at what other businessmen are doing, and then they'll copy it. There's enough poke restaurants in North America now to ensure we'll never eat it after 2020 rather. And a great entrepreneur looks for and sees the opportunity in struggle. If there's so much struggle, how are we not designing for it? And so I want to design for homelessness. It's what I work in, it's what I do, it's where I put all of my time and energy. This is what homelessness looks like. Fastest growing portion of homelessness is families. It's not just the guy with the gray beard and the sign with the dog and the bucket. Second biggest growing is the elderly. Third biggest is our veterans. Fourth biggest, people who come out to their parents. 1 in 4 in the nation get thrown out of their house. So I thought I'd focus my research first on homeless youth. Let's just take, I can't boil the ocean right off the hop. I'm going to try. But we jumped in, and I wanted to get these numbers because we're so good at data, right? Everybody's got data. There's so much of it. Great, easy. I'm at Stanford. We have data papers. That's what smart people do. This was a national study, 45,205 homeless students. I was like, that youth number doesn't make sense to me, so I went to another study. 1.7 million was the next study. So, little gap between the, I was like, oh, it's close, but no. Now, if the national number is 586,422 as done by the National Homeless Alliance, then how do we have 1.7 million homeless youth? You know what? Nobody knows what they're talking about. That's what it comes down to. So there's 326 million people in the United States of America, going up by the second, I believe. Empathy, we know we have it. We know we want to do it. The token program's 100,000 people in a place where there's 300,000. Everybody wants to help. Imagine if one person helped one person. Well, there wouldn't be enough to go around. Wouldn't that be a good problem to have? There's another number. 300 million people have engaged in something else, something revolutionary, something that will change the tide of, no, there's 300 million Angry Bird players. What? So we're going to work on a digital solution. Homelessness is your problem. It costs twice as much, a minimum of twice as much to have somebody homeless than it does to have them housed. Triage, emergency services, all of these things that we're duplicating, we're paying for it. That's crazy. So we're back to who inspires you and why. And we're going to go back to this guy, who also is a model. Obviously, handsome bastard. And so Mike, during that story, was completely estranged from his family. He started work for me the next day. He's worked for me, well, he retired 3 months ago on his own volition because he's got it like that. But he worked for me for almost 8 years as the pillar of why we do what we do and how we can do more of it, and focusing on the one person, not on the mass. We always want to do scale now. It's so hip to scale. Oh, we're going to have so many people, and then companies explode quietly. And then the people who are being served, they lose out. Here's him with his nephew at the time, a couple years back, reconnected with his family, reconnected with his daughter, safe place, being a grandfather, not a heroin addict. This is him with one of my best friends who battles mental illness very heavily, who just got out of rehabilitation. He's a mentor. He's a soldier to our neighborhood. Here's him and I. There's 3 addicts there, by the way. All of us recovered, so it's okay. This is him with his grandson, and this picture gets me every time. When I met Mike, he had literally no connection with his family. He is now the elder in his family again. And if you guys will bear with me, I wrote something to him. He's in stage 4 renal failure. I also have a kidney issue. We're very, very close. And I wrote him something. Can I take another 2 minutes of your time and read it? We good? Okay. I need you to stand up, though. Can you stand up? And I need you to close your eyes and hold hands to the person next to you. Lots of instructions. Thank you. Thank you, brother. Here we go. Let's try this out. All right. Isn't that uncomfortable? Is everybody I don't know this guy next to me. What you make me hold his hand for? So when I was preparing for Peace Love, I had literally no idea that Neil, the greatest poet in the world, was going to be coming. So I'm going to read this poem anyway. And Neil can tell me it either sucks or it's great, but you're going to applaud and tell me either way. All right, here we go. Dear Michael, I've never found the words to explain how you've changed my life. So let me try here, safe. See, my perception was the deception that kept me from a fall. But what ledge is worth it? What flaw would birth it? The fire inside me to throw it all away to serve us. In service to something much greater than the sums of any deal. In service to something heavier than 100 tons of steel. What service could turn a tanker on its way to make a mill? Us. The servitude and gratitude to the sum of equal parts. Equality may be an impossible task, but fuck it, I'm gonna start. Because Mark will leave his mark with a trail of failure rich in missteps, rife with bad calls, overflowing with false confidence. I made a promise to bite off more than I can chew, and some will call it obstinance. But I chew I will until my jaw locks with a painful twitch to remind me why I do this. You. I'll take every step you take up the ladder once pulled from you, my true sense of a life well earned, fighting those who still goose step. You see, Michael, I heard people speak of you and your kind like human sewage. Junkies, thieves, liars, cheats, burdens on a system that should remove it. Take a shovel to you all in the name of civic beauty. Tie a tidy bow on it all in the name of community. Disgusting. My hands are shaking. We won't let them define us, no way. The surest way to isolation is to separate the fray. So instead, Michael, grandfather, custodian, beautiful, flawed human, we'll show them another way. Teach them words like inclusion, redemption, even upward mobility. We'll create new archetypes and systems to collaborate because you showed me the most important thing in life, it's never too late. Thank you.